we're about to enjoy a tour of the Lake District. We'll be riding in a minivan along with 4 other passengers, and our guide driver will be giving us some interesting narration as we roll through the hills of Windermere and the Lake District.
Just leaving Windermere now. It's a very, very popular walking and climbing area. Barnes Park to our left, a lovely little picnicking spot.
There's a nice variety of day trips that you can enjoy from Windermere. Of course, you can go off on your own and just simply walk for the day, go tramping about, which is one of the most popular activities, or ride in a minivan, as we're doing today.
This is the River Braffey on the left-hand side. It takes all the water from the Langdales down into Lake Windermere. It's the sole outflow of all the water that collects up there. And when it does rain up there, this field on the left here is completely flooded.
The particular itinerary that we're on today is with Mountain Goat Tours, and they call this their High Adventure. And it takes you through a series of small villages and past several lakes. You get a chance to get out of the van every half hour, every hour or so, and stretch your legs and breathe some of this fresh country air. From Windermere, the van travels to Ambleside, which is one of the main small towns here in the Lake Country, and follows a route through the mountains pioneered nearly 2,000 years ago by the Romans. And shortly we'll be seeing an ancient Roman fort still preserved today. Passing through the village of Elterwater, we enter the beautiful, unspoiled Little Langdale Valley. We follow a narrow, winding road that leads to Wrynose Pass, wild and rugged mountain scenery at its best. From the top, we follow the infant River Duddon, which was a favorite of Wordsworth, to Cockley Beck Bridge before commencing this steep, dramatic climb up to Hardnott Pass. You can see why Wordsworth was so inspired by this scenery that he wrote his beautiful poetry in the Romantic style. He lived in the town of Grasmere, which is nearby, in the famous Dove Cottage, which is open to the public today. It's just a small building where he spent about 15 years of his life, living with his wife and later with his sister. Other famous writers lived in the district, in particular Coleridge and Beatrix Potter. The easy way to get up the hill is in your Land Rover or in your minivan. And there's our comfortable mountain goat van. The hard way is by bicycle, as 2 fellows are attempting here, struggling up this very steep hill. In fact, this is the steepest road in Great Britain. It pays off with a magnificent panorama. The vista is stupendous as they struggle to get up to the top of the pass. But for them, it's barely worth it, as they tell us, don't try it, we'd be daft.
Don't have a try, this is hot.
Seeing such an effort makes one appreciate all the more the comfort of our air-conditioned van. Fairly modern van, new upholstery, nice comfortable seats with scenic picture windows, which we can enjoy this fabulous view. There's several tour companies that operate in Windermere. After all, this is one of the tourist centers of Great Britain. One company is called Brown's Tours, another company is National Park Tours, and they all bring you on similar kinds of itineraries, including this extremely twisty, steep road going over Hardnott Pass. It's a 1 in 3 gradient, and it's a series of hairpin turns that lead you to the Hardnott Roman Fort. The ruins are quite nicely preserved, as you can see, and they offer an amazing reminder about the power of the ancient Roman Empire. It must have been one of the greatest processes in world history for the Romans to expand their control throughout Europe, throughout Africa, into Asia, and here into the northern reaches of Great Britain. We're just about at the frontier of Roman power, for Hadrian's Wall, just a few miles north of here, was the upper limit of how far the Romans got. You can see the strategic placement of this fort right at the top of a major pass through the mountains, and with this one fort, they could control hundreds of miles. The fort was staffed by Roman legionnaires and mercenaries, partly from Yugoslavia, according to legend. Roman rule began in England back in the year AD 43. An army of 40,000 soldiers quickly conquered the island, and Rome remained in control for the next 300 years. After that, farmers continued building nice stone walls, but couldn't quite match the quality of the ancient Roman techniques.
The reason for these walls being built was that the fields were just covered in loose stone from after the Ice Age, and it had all been brought down from the fells, and they had to get rid of it. So instead of putting it into a pile, a lot of the stone was used for building walls. These walls will stand for over 150 years. We're going down to the village of Boot for lunch. We'll stop at a lovely little pub there where you can get yourself something to eat. Very, very nice bar lunches.
Well, here we are having a little break in the middle of our all-day tour of the lake country, sipping some Guinness out in a country pub. That's the real stuff here. We've been seeing lots of beautiful scenery, lakes, mountains, wild country roads. We visited a Roman fort, and now this afternoon we'll be going on a little train ride in an old-fashioned steam railroad through some of the most scenic parts of the British lakeside countryside. The lake country with Windermere and Lake Windermere around it is one of the most beautiful parts of Britain, and we have a perfect day today in which to enjoy it in our little guided minivan with our local escort driving us around. So after we finish our lunch, we'll continue with our little tour of the Lake District. One is always a bit wary when a tour delivers you to a restaurant for lunch. But in this case, no need for concern. This is British country dining, al fresco, enjoying a terrific lunch. There are several other choices nearby. There's another pub and there's a small village just a short walk away, but you might as well just relax and enjoy the meal. Have some beer, have some lemonade or tea or coffee to wash it all down. And then after lunch, there's time to explore some parts of this little village of Boot. We see a fine working example of the power source that helped start the Industrial Revolution, which began here in Britain hundreds of years ago. It's a water wheel connected to this little stream. Here in this tiny village in the middle of nowhere, the traveler's dream is fulfilled. We've got the beauties of nature, we've got the fascination of history still alive today. We're digesting a delicious lunch that was washed down with Guinness on tap, enjoying this old stone building that dates back hundreds of years, and we're about to continue our journey and take a ride on a miniature train, one of the most spectacular visitor attractions in all of England. This cute little train was actually an important part of the mining operations here in the old days. They were busy mining for copper and iron and quarrying granite as well. And this was part of the operations. Now it's the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway.
Didn't run at a profit and the ore subsided. But someone then privately bought the line and decided to bring the little trains up. And it was the only communication in the valley to get back and forward from work, from where we've been. And the little trains were running, you know, just back and forward. And then they built the pass lines so they could put more trains on. And eventually it's come to this, but it's supported a lot by volunteers. And I know it's still quite a lot of money, but it's needed because it all has to be maintained and run. And,
So this was the original tracks
yes,
that were on?
Yeah, oh yes, yes. From not when the ore train was on, but when this person built the line again. I think some of the lines were used, the steel was used in the war. They took the lines away, so when they rebuilt it, they built the smaller track for the tiny trains. Because the ore tracks had gone to the war to make ships and things. This is the nice bit. These cottages here were when the train used to be serving the mine, which is what it used to be many years ago. That's where the miners lived, in those cottages.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Have your autograph, sir?
Okay, certainly.
Oh, quick, before he's got chance.
The railway is affectionately known today as Little Ratty, and it operates a mostly summer service with trains hauled by scale models of steam locomotives and diesel locomotives.
The railway was built to bring out the ore and also slate from the mines. When the mines closed down, the railway fell into disrepair, and eventually someone decided that it's too good a thing to let go, and they built it up again into one of the major tourist attractions of the Lake District. It's a 15-inch narrow gauge railway. Don't call it a miniature railway because the people on the railway don't like it. They are full working steam engines, of which they have 4.
For the leisure-minded travelers like us, this train ride is a complete experience. It gives you the luxury of sitting back and relaxing on a very smooth ride, and yet there's elements of the adventure while riding close to the ground, tracks gliding by underneath you, but you really don't have to do any work. You can just sit back and let it all happen. Before long, the trip is over and you'd like to continue going. You can go on round trips here if you wish to. Or, better yet, for the truly adventurous, you can take a hike. There's many famous walking trails in the area. One of them will take you over Muncaster Fell, which is a hill about 800 feet high and brings you up to a beautiful spot with a great view that stretches for many miles. But in our case, we're just going to stretch our legs and walk back to the tour van that will continue taking us on our merry way.
Right, off we go. The whole of this area is owned by the National Trust, and they're very, very proud of it, quite rightly so. This area is also used for the logo for the Cumbrian County Council. The nuclear agency want to bury a lot of nuclear waste. They want to build a big cavern underneath the village and fill it with radioactive waste. And understandably, the visitors don't really want that to happen. Now we're going to take a little detour around the fell you can see over in front of us, and we're going to go round to Wasswater, and we'll stop just for a few minutes at Wasswater just so you can get out and take some photographs, because it's really a beautiful spot. Now that's Wasswater, 280 feet deep, and it's the deepest in England.
We're in the center of perhaps the most dramatic part of the scenic Lake District. We have the deepest lake, Wasswater, and nearby is England's tallest mountain, Scafell Pike, at about 3,000 feet high. This magnificent lake is very popular for boating, as you can see, swimming, fishing, camping nearby, and of course there's always hiking trails every place you go in the Lake District. However, if you want to see these lakes, you'd better hurry up and get here, because geologists estimate that they'll be gone in about 40,000 or 50,000 years. About 500 million years ago, this land that was to become the Lake District was a trough that was full of sediment under a muddy sea. Vast volcanic eruptions buried the region under 2 miles of ash and lava about 450 million years ago. Since then, it's been a mountain range, an ocean, a swamp, and a desert. And it's only in the last million years since the Ice Age that the present landscape has taken on the form you see today. The glaciers came down and scooped out the lakes and deposited lots of loose stone in the fields that the farmers since then have had to pile up into walls and houses to clear the fields for their agriculture. We're on our way to Muncaster Castle, that's been the home of the Pennington family since the 13th century. and they still own it today. This castle presents the very image of a classic medieval fortification, even though the building we see today was rebuilt about 100 years ago. The beautiful grounds surrounding the castle present just as many reasons for you to visit this place as the castle itself, particularly noted for its rhododendron collection, which mimic the billowing clouds in the blue skies. The nursery here sells a wide variety of seeds and potted flowers, and they also dish out free advice for help with your home garden. There's a zoo as well, famous for its collection of barn owls. All of this is free and open to the public. You can stroll through the grounds and no need to pay any admission charge for the gardens. However, if you want to go inside the castle, you pay the small fee to gain entrance, and it's well worth it because the interior of the castle has a stimulating mixture of objects, furniture, paintings, sculpture, and jewelry. Unfortunately, they don't allow video cameras inside, so you'll just have to go and see Muncaster Castle for yourself. And it's surrounded by this fabulous scenery. For many miles, you'll see nothing but cows and rolling green hills and stone walls and some low mountains off in the distance. Geologists believe these mountains are probably the oldest mountains in Europe, some of them dating back to 550 million years ago. Our full-day tour on this comfortable van has been well worth the $30 that it cost, and there's a variety of other full-day tours that you can enjoy from your base in Windermere or any of the other popular lake country towns. For example, you could tour the Northern Lakes for a day on a trip that'll take you to Troutbeck and Kirkstone Pass and to Keswick and Castlerigg Stone Circle and up to Newlands and Buttermere, and finally taking you around past Grasmere and back to your home village. Or instead you could choose the Southern Lakes, and this would bring you to Bowland Bridge, Gummershow, Cartmel, and the Beatrix Potter Gallery. Perhaps catch a glimpse of Peter Rabbit before continuing on your trip with a boat ride down Coniston Water. Another alternative is touring the Yorkshire Dales, or Harriet Country as they're called, and we will be taking you there in a later program as our tour of Great Britain continues. After the Lake District, we'll be taking a drive over to York.